Steven Soderbergh, you beautiful bastard. You just saved the month of January in 2025 single-handedly, and I appreciate you. And you did it in the most unlikely of ways. This movie is nothing like I thought it would be, and that is precisely why I enjoyed it so much. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
The official synopsis for Presence reads, a family moves into a suburban house and becomes convinced they're not alone. Now, from the moment I first heard the concept of this movie, up until when I saw the trailer, it was very clear to me that execution was going to be everything if this was going to work. Well, I'm happy to report that the execution for this film, at least in my opinion, was spot on.
Jesus f***ing Christ, it's about time!
Now, I do think that some of the marketing for this film was a bit misleading. It's not a horror film, at least not in the traditional sense of the word. It's listed as a horror psychological thriller, but I would actually call it a psychological drama more than anything. Yes, this movie is a haunted house story told from the perspective of the ghost. We actually saw something similar in the slasher genre just last year with In a Violent Nature. So obviously this story is told through a first-person perspective, which offers a lot of advantages narratively and visually that we've never really had in a movie like this before. And that right there is the biggest reason why I believe that some of you should give this movie a chance. At the very least, it is putting a fresh spin on a familiar concept.
I like it a lot.
The truth is that being in the entity's shoes throughout the entire course of a movie could be boring if it was in lesser hands. But writer David Koepp and director Steven Soderbergh actually managed to craft a story both visually and on the page that actually keeps you interested in both the entity as well as the family we are observing. Now, I've seen some people dismiss this movie already and call it nothing more than a gimmick. And you know what? It might be a gimmick, but it's the most effective use of that gimmick that I've seen in some time. This movie isn't so much scary or terrifying as it is mysterious. There is something quite eerie about seeing things through this entity's perspective. Even more so early in the film when you have no idea what the entity actually wants.
That makes sense.
Plus, if you were ever curious as to whether or not ghosts watch you while you're having sex, then this movie has the answers to that too. Let the shame wash over you. And then we have the family, which is honestly the make or break aspect of an outside-of-the-box concept like this. Because put quite simply, if the family sucked, then nobody is going to give a shit. But this movie is very much about the interpersonal relationships between these characters, and how they all navigate through the setbacks and triumphs they encounter in very different ways. We have a concerned father, a disconnected mother, an asshole son, and a troubled daughter, to make out a little interesting crop of characters. And the interactions between them make for some interesting character moments that I honestly wasn't expecting from this movie going in. This movie isn't afraid to tackle deep emotional themes like grief, isolation, and trauma, and what all of those things can do to a person if they deal with them head on or they try to ignore them.
I'm in a glass case of emotion!
Also, if you are a fan of the unexplained, of the paranormal, as I am, there's a lot of big ideas contained within this movie about death and what happens to us, our place in the universe, and it also plays with the rules that we know about supernatural stories like this. To me, this felt like one of those movies that you will get more and more from it the more times you watch it. Plus, it has this beautiful, yet poetic, yet tragic finale that honestly I didn't see coming. But when thinking about it after the fact, you can definitely see how they were laying the groundwork for it the entire time. I mean, this movie definitely takes a turn in the third act, but rather than it feeling like it came out of left field, It very much felt like it made sense to me. One minor drawback to the film is I don't know if the twist is going to work as well in subsequent viewings, but that's the case with any twist in any movie.
It's true.
It's crazy to say, but I think just about everything worked for me about this movie. The atmosphere, the cinematography, the acting, the writing. I was very hard-pressed to find any major flaws in this movie. It actually kept me engaged throughout the entire course of the movie, which is all you could really ask for from an experimental concept like this. Also, I have to give props to the use of sound in this film. I mean, everything from the score to the sound design enhanced this film in the way that it should. And if you're one of those people who are worried about this movie dragging, because there are quote-unquote long periods where nothing is happening, as the ghost moves around the house, I'm happy to report that I thought this film paced itself beautifully. They let the shots linger when necessary, but they don't dwell on it to the point where it starts to get old. They also aren't afraid to cut and move on to the next scene when it's time to keep things moving.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
I don't remember the last time I seen this much innovation and meaningful ideas packed into such a small runtime. At a brisk 1 hour and 25 minutes, they make the most of that screen time, and yet somehow, the film doesn't feel bloated or rushed. I just think every aspect of this film, every minor plot line, had a purpose. It was all building to this moment at the end of the film, and I think because they put the time and effort into building to that moment is a lot more impactful than it had any business being. Bottom line, leave it to someone like Steven Soderbergh, a guy who's been in the game for a minute, to take a somewhat basic concept like this and get the most out of it. This movie felt new and fresh to the genre, whatever genre you want to put it in. What do I always say about new movies? I want them to show me something that I've never seen before. And Presence very much did that.
We give them what they want!
It's the type of movie that can entertain you with its craftsmanship, as well as its character drama, and also actually make you think about what you're watching. Couple all of that with the fact that it's an absolute treat to look at, and almost hypnotic in the way that it moves in and out of scenes and situations. Presence is easily the best movie I've seen in theaters so far this year, and that's why it's going to get the pleased Palpatine.
Good.
Y'all be cool. Shut up.